Now she just rooted on my hands. I went to change to the left. She rooted on my hands. Take the slack up and just set them here. When she gets soft off my hands, I give her some slack back. See, right there, she's rooting on my hands, trying to pull the slack out of my hands. All right. Talk about what I do with the horse that roots on my hands. So this horse started off really bad about that. Then as you see, usually a horse rooting on your hands is caused from never giving the horse a release, and your contact basically causing static that the horse just don't understand. See right there, she kind of pulled on my hands. So what I'm going to do, there she's starting to pull. See how I took up the slack, she's starting to pull. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take up the slack and I'm going to put my hands right here, just lock them down so they don't move, and I'm going to keep her going. Every time she pulls on my hands, I'm going to give her a bump with one of my legs. She pulls on my right hand, I'll bump with my right spur. Not a whole lot, just a little bit, saying let's go forward. She pulls on my left hand, I give her a bump with my left spur. She pulls on both hands, I'm going to send her forward with both legs. I'm going to not let her get any slack. Whatever pressure she puts on the bit, it's on her. The whole reason a horse roots is because you're holding contact, not giving a release, and the horse wants a release from the pressure. So what I'm doing here is I'm not letting her have the reward of rooting on my hands. And every time she does root, I send her forward. That's really important because, that's going to stop. In order for a horse to push with their nose, they have to push with their front feet to get the leverage to push with their nose. So saying go with my legs, bumping with my spurs, and I do use spur and not leg in this case. I'll talk about why in a minute. Bumping with my spurs is really important because that lifts the body up, lifts the shoulder up, which takes away that leverage and helps the horse to collect. Take up my slack, let's send her forward. Now see right there, she started to round up and collect off of the bit as she drove her back in forward. So not only am I fixing the rooting issue, I am also teaching her to use her body more correctly. The two parts need to go together. She needs to not root on my hands, but she also needs to round her back, engage her back in, break it to pole. Go forward, turn to the left, a little bit of left rein, turn to the left, lock my hands back. Okay, new to horses, what is rooting on my hands? So when I'm steering her around, watch her head. I would like her head to stay in a relaxed position. When I take up a little bit of slack, she starts pulling back on me. She's not pulling too hard because I've been working on it. So right here, if she was to pull her nose down to pull slack out of my hands, that's rooting on my hands. If you have a horse that you want to talk to me about getting it in for training, be that screen or maybe a horse with some issues that needs to be fixed, shoot me a message and we'll talk about it. And you see that a lot in lesson horses, school horses, where you have beginner riders that are bouncing on the horse's mouth. And if the rider is bouncing on the horse's mouth, see our head come up right there and her feet move. And she did that to brace against that bouncing. And that's what rooting is. Basically, something is leaning on her, so she's leaning back. And that can be rooting, that can be the body, it can be any part where you put pressure and the horse leans back.